The void around Sol was supposed to be empty. At least, that's what the chart said. The Sarathul's Hope, once a proud exploration cruiser of the Draxian Union, drifted silently between Mars and Earth, half its hull scorched from a reactor breach. The engines were dead. Life support was flickering. Half the crew lay in stasis pods, suspended between survival and oblivion. Captain Sarathul stood on the shattered bridge, her mandibles trembling as she surveyed the damage. Her crew moved sluggishly, the ship's gravity failing in uneven waves. Sparks rained down from broken conduits, and the stars outside spun like mocking eyes. They had come seeking a detour route to the intertrade lanes, and now they were dying near an unregistered, primitive world. Power reserves down to 8%. Her engineer croaked. "We won't last another rotation." Sarathul turned toward the pale blue sphere, filling the viewport. Earth. It wasn't even in their main navigational archives. Only a footnote in an ancient probe report. A world that still burned fossil fuels. A world with no fleet, no alliances, no quantum relays. But it was the only nearby planet with oxygen and water. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Standard distress frequency." The communications officer hesitated. "Captain, the species below, they may not even understand Galactic Common." "Then they'll ignore us," Sarathul said bitterly. "And we'll die unheard. Send it anyway." A weak pulse of light and radio spilled into the void, a plea carried on desperation. Minutes passed, then an hour. The bridge was quiet, save for the crackling of damaged circuits and the slow hiss of leaking air. Sarathul bowed her head. "This is how it ends," she murmured, "among unknowing stars." Then suddenly, a voice, crackling to the static, rough but steady. "Unidentified vessel. This is Commander Alvarez of the United Nations Orbital Response Network. We've received your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" The crew froze. Sarathul's secondary heart skipped. "Did they just—" The engineer whispered. The comms officer blinked. "Translation matrix. That's our language. They learned it in seconds." The voice continued. "We have medical, engineering, and defense teams en route. Please hold position. You are not alone out here." For the first time in hours, Sarathul laughed. A short, disbelieving sound. "They're sending help? Them—" Her science officer looked at the blue planet on the screen. A pre-FTL civilization shouldn't be capable of this kind of coordination. But the sensors told a different story. Dozens of small ships were launching from orbit, shuttles, tugs, modular drones. Their trajectories were precise, their speeds impossibly fast for such primitive craft. The alien rescue convoy grew larger on their scopes. Every vessel bore different markings: NASA, ESA, JAXA, CNSA, and symbols the Draxians couldn't decipher. Dozens of human nations, somehow working together. "Commander," Sarathul said, forcing composure, "your transmission is unexpected. We are heavily damaged and leaking radiation. Your approach may be dangerous." A calm laugh echoed back. "Captain, danger's kind of our thing. We've handled worse than a leaky reactor. Hang in there. Our mechanics will patch you up before you know it." Her crew stared in disbelief. "Mechanics," one muttered. "They're sending technicians into this mess?" "Maybe they don't understand how bad it is," another said. But when the first human craft arrived, small, white, marked with red crosses and bold lettering that read Rescue 03, the aliens realized they had underestimated them. A transmission feed opened. A human face appeared, helmeted and smiling. "You're going to be okay. We've got medics, engineers, and a security escort inbound. Just try not to explode on us, yeah?" Even through fear, Sarathul felt something strange. Relief. These creatures weren't afraid of the void. They didn't hesitate. The humans' tugs latched onto the alien hull, stabilizing rotation. Repair drones began sealing breaches with bright arcs of plasma. Medics in insulated suits crossed over through decompression tunnels, carrying supplies and portable atmosphere generators. When one of them entered the bridge, he gave a small nod to the Draxian captain. "Commander Alvarez sends his regards," the medic said. "We're here to keep you breathing. Captain, let's start with your wounded." Sarathul could only whisper, You came. The human tilted his head. You called. Outside, the blue planet gleamed. No longer a primitive world, but a beacon in the dark. And as the Serathol's hope steadied under human hands, Captain Serathol realized something unsettling and wondrous. They had expected hostility. They found humanity instead. The boarding corridor hissed as the airlock cycled open. A wave of clean oxygen and sterilizing mist flooded through, followed by the steady clang of magnetic boots. Captain Serathol and her bridge crew stood frozen as the first humans stepped aboard. They weren't what she expected. No bulky armor, no intimidation displays. The lead figure wore a white suit streaked with red markings, a glowing emblem of a circle around a cross, the universal symbol of aid. The human raised a gloved hand in greeting. Lieutenant Nora Kim, UN Orbiter Response Corps, she said through her translator. We're here to stabilize your systems and treat your wounded. Behind her came a team of engineers, mechanics burdened with toolkits, plasma welders, and scanning drones that flitted like fireflies. 2 Marines followed last, their weapons slung low, eyes scanning the corridor with disciplined calm. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Serathol finally managed. You risk contamination, radiation exposure. Lieutenant Kim's eyes softened behind her visor. We risk a lot of things, Captain. Breathing's one of them. Let's save your crew. Within minutes, the human team moved through the alien vessel like they'd trained for it. Mechanics crawled through maintenance shafts, swapping burnt conduits for carbon filament spares. Medics unpacked emergency kits, reading alien physiology through rapidly adapting scanners. One human engineer, broad, grease-smeared, humming softly, crawled under the reactor panel and muttered, "Whoever designed this, I owe them a beer and a scolding." Serathol blinked. You jest while repairing a dying ship? He grinned. Ma'am, humor keeps the hand steady. On the medical deck, chaos turned to order. Human medics improvised intravenous systems out of repurposed tubing. One of them cradled a small Draxian child, her chitin cracked, breathing weak. The medic adjusted a biofoam patch and whispered, "You're going to be okay, little one," though the child couldn't understand the words, only the tone. Her mother, a Draxian lieutenant, watched, trembling. "You care for our young as your own?" The medic looked up, eyes fierce. Pain's universal. So is compassion. Serathol walked with Commander Alvarez later, their communication translators syncing in real time. The human commander moved with the quiet confidence of a veteran. Not boastful, not cold, just steady. "Why?" Serathol asked at last. "You knew nothing of us. We could have been hostile. Why risk your people for strangers?" Alvarez smiled faintly. "Because we've all been stranded before." He gestured toward Earth, visible through the viewport, blue, fragile, magnificent. "We've been through wars, extinctions, disasters. Every time, someone reached out a hand and pulled us back from the brink. Now it's our turn." Serathol felt her throat tighten. "You speak as though your world is united." Alvarez gave a dry laugh. "Not always. Not even close. But up here," he gestured to the orbiting fleet visible beyond the alien hull. Ships marked with different flags, languages, and emblems, all working together. "Up here, we remember what matters." Hours passed. Where there had been chaos, now came rhythm. The sound of welding torches, mechanical drones humming, medics reporting vitals, Marines securing corridors. When the reactor core finally reignited, the alien crew erupted in cheers. The humans didn't celebrate loudly, just shared tired smiles, leaning against bulkheads, their faces streaked with sweat and light. The human engineer from earlier tapped the console proudly. "Reactor stable. You're running cleaner than half our stations now." "Impossible," Serathol muttered. "Highly probable," he replied with a wink. "We're stubborn like that." The Marines, ever vigilant, stood guard by the docking corridor. Not aggressive, merely present. One of them caught Serathol's gaze and nodded respectfully. Their weapons were not for conquest. She realized. They were shields of those who could not fight. When the humans began towing the Serathol's hope toward high orbit, Earth filled the view, an ocean-wrapped jewel turning slowly beneath them. The alien crew gathered on the observation deck, silent. Look at them, whispered the science officer. So many nations, yet one purpose. Sarathul could only nod. She thought of the centuries her people spent waging wars, drawing borders, dividing themselves by creed and color, and yet here in orbit around a primitive world, she saw what true advancement looked like. Unity, born from struggle, refined by compassion. As their crippled ship settled into a repair dock built by human hands, Sarathul whispered to her crew, "Remember this site. The ones we called primitive just pulled us back from extinction." That night, if Earth's rotation could be called that, the Sarathul's hope shone in orbit, lights glowing anew. Human vessels drifted nearby like guardian stars, their crews still awake, still watching, still ready. For the first time since the crash, the alien captain allowed herself to rest. Her last thought before sleep was simple but powerful. If this is what humanity does for strangers, what might they do for friends? The Sarathul's hope no longer drifted lifeless through the void. It hung proudly in Earth's orbit now, her wounds sealed, her lights bright. Yet as the alien crew recovered, another question began to haunt them. Who exactly were these humans? Captain Sarathul sat in the human-built observation dome, a gift temporarily attached to her ship. Below her, Earth glowed, ocean shimmering like liquid glass, lightning flashing in clouds. It was breathtaking. But the view wasn't what disturbed her. It was the data. Her science officer, Reelan, projected the findings across the dome. "Captain, we've been reviewing the humans' open archives. They call it the Internet. It's vast, frighteningly vast." Sarathul frowned. "Explain." Reelan hesitated. "They are so young, barely a few millennia into industrial civilization. Yet in less than 3 centuries, they've gone from ground flight to orbital cities. They built weapons that could vaporize continents, then somehow restrained themselves from extinction." She stared at the scrolling feeds, images of human wars, disasters, inventions, music, art, and laughter. It was chaos made beautiful. "How can a species be both so fragile and so unstoppable?" she murmured. Reelan looked uneasy. "Captain, their potential is terrifying. They adapt faster than any model predicts. If they ever turn their unity toward conquest..." Sarathul's mandibles twitched. "They didn't. They saved us." Elsewhere aboard the ship, Commander Alvarez and his Marine escort walked alongside a group of Draxian officers. The humans were giving a tour of their orbital defense network. Sleek platforms built with recycled space debris manned by volunteers. Alvarez's tone was casual but precise. "We keep it small, defensive only, but we make sure it works." One alien officer blinked as they passed a viewport showing dozens of coordinated drones forming a moving shield wall around the planet. "Your species calls this defensive? That formation could crush a cruiser." The human commander just smiled. "Maybe, but we'd rather never have to prove it." The Draxians exchanged glances. Humanity's strength wasn't in its weaponry alone. It was in its discipline. Their Marines trained like soldiers from a galactic empire, yet their mission was rescue, not conquest. Every system, every ship, seemed designed to protect, not dominate. "Why do you carry such power, yet speak of peace?" asked Lieutenant Ray, unable to contain herself. Alvarez stopped at the observation window, watching the blue curve of Earth below. "Because we learned what happens when power forgets mercy." His voice was low. "We don't ever want to go back." Hours later, the tension of orbit shattered. "Captain," Reelan shouted. Unknown contact approaching from lunar space. 5 ships, scavenger class, unregistered signatures. Pirates. Sarathul's crew scrambled to stations, but the human response was faster. Within seconds, transmissions flickered across channels. UN Defense Command, all vessels. Unknown hostiles inbound. Non-lethal intercept authorization granted. Marines, prepare for deterrence. Human ships detached from orbit like a swarm of hornets. Sleek gunships streaked across the void, locking onto the pirate vessels. Sarathul watched, astonished, as the humans executed maneuvers that defied known tactics, coordinated, silent, seamless. They didn't attack recklessly. They moved with purpose, cutting off escape routes, disabling engines with surgical precision. In 12 minutes, it was over. The scavenger fleet drifted powerless. No one was killed. A communication pinged through the bridge. Commander Alvarez's calm voice. Hostiles neutralized. Your skies are clear again, Captain. Sarathel exhaled slowly. Her crew murmured in awe. They fought with precision, restraint, and mercy, Reelan whispered. I've never seen anything like it. Sarathel watched the human ships return, engines glowing softly against the dark. They had defended Earth, yes, but also them dangerous, she muttered. So very dangerous and yet so noble. When Commander Alvarez later visited the Sarathel's Hope, Sarathel met him at the docking hatch. I saw your ships in action, she said. You fought like legend from our oldest myths, fierce and flawless. Alvarez looked tired, but smiled faintly. We fight so others don't have to, Captain. That's the idea. She studied him in silence. This human who commanded fleets, who spoke gently, who wielded unimaginable power without arrogance. Your people, she said softly, could rule the stars. Maybe, he replied, but we'd rather belong to them. For the first time, Sarathel understood the strange paradox of humanity. Warriors who built hospitals, soldiers who carried food instead of flags, engineers who rebuilt instead of conquered. In that moment, she realized the truth her crew had whispered since the rescue began. Humanity was not to be feared for its weapons, but for its will, the unbreakable drive to protect, to endure, and to rise again. As the Sarathel's Hope prepared for final departure, the galaxy felt suddenly larger and far less certain, because somewhere on that blue planet below, a young species was waking, and the stars had noticed. 3 standard cycles after the rescue, the Sarathel's Hope was whole again. Her hull gleamed beneath the sun, repaired with composite plating of both human and Draxian design, a symbol of 2 civilizations joined by chance and compassion. Captain Sarathel stood at the main viewport, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her. The planet had become something sacred to her crew, a beacon wrapped in cloud and sea, beautiful and defiant. Around them, the orbit hummed with life. Human vessels darted between repair platforms, their radio chatter full of laughter and quiet pride. Mechanics still polished the Draxian hull as if they couldn't bear to leave it imperfect. Medics made final rounds among the alien patients, exchanging handshakes and half-translated jokes. For all their differences, it was hard to tell who was the alien anymore. Commander Alvarez arrived one last time. His uniform was crisp, but there was a weariness in his eyes, the kind that comes from long days, hard work, and unspoken respect. Sarathel saluted him in the human style, hand to brow, palm forward. He returned it, smiling faintly. So, he said, glancing at the glowing console where human and Draxian signatures pulsed together. You're ready to fly again. Sarathel nodded. Because of you and your people. You've done more than save a ship, Commander. You've changed how we see this galaxy. He chuckled. We just did what we'd hoped someone would do for us. She tilted her head, considering his words. Do you really think others would do the same if you were stranded? He smiled sadly. We don't count on it. We do it anyway. In the docking bay, human engineers were packing up. One of them, the grease-smeared technician who'd once joked about her reactor, slapped the hull fondly. She's a beauty now. Don't crash her again. Sarathel's engineer, Reelan, extended a clawed hand. The human grinned and shook it without hesitation. You people are unbelievable, Reelan said. You build like you fight, fast, loud, and somehow it works. The human laughed. We call that innovation. Nearby, medics exchanged embraces with Draxian patients. A child clung to a human nurse, refusing to let go until she promised away when they flew past the moon. Marines stood at attention by the airlocks, helmets tucked under their arms, their faces proud but gentle, guardians who never drew a weapon in anger. The atmosphere in the bay was thick with something deeper than gratitude, something that transcended language or species. When the final docking clamps released, Earth's Orbital Command sent a farewell transmission. To the crew of the Sarathel's Hope, may your stars burn bright. You'll always have friends here on Earth. Sarathel swallowed hard before replying. And may your skies remain blue, my friends. You did not just save us, you reminded us what strength truly means. As the ship turned away, Earth filled the main screen, a swirl of ocean and cloud, its continents glowing in sunrise. The engines hummed alive with a deep, steady roar. The Draxians stood silent, united by awe. "Record this moment," Sarathul whispered. "Let every world know what happened here." Her communications officer nodded, fingers gliding over controls. The transmission began, not a classified report, not a political statement, but a simple message sent across open channels. "This is Captain Sarathul of the Draxian Union vessel Sarathul's Hope. We were stranded near an unregistered world called Earth. They sent mechanics, medics, and marines. They rebuilt our ship. They healed our wounded. They expected nothing in return. To any who hear this, humanity is not to be feared. They are to be known." The signal spread like wildfire through the void, bouncing from relay to relay, intercepted by merchant beacons, pirate scanners, and hidden listening posts across dozens of sectors. And everywhere it was heard, disbelief turned to wonder. The primitive world had reached the stars, not with fleets or conquest, but with kindness backed by strength. Weeks later, as the Sarathul's Hope entered Draxian space, Sarathul sat to record her final log. "We expected warships. They sent healers and warriors. We expected ignorance. They sent understanding. The humans are not what the archives claimed. Their engines burn bright, and so do their hearts. I believe they will one day walk among the stars, not as conquerors, but as the guardians we all needed." She paused, staring out the void, a darkness now forever marked by one shining blue light. "When the stars remember Earth, let them remember this. They saved us, and in doing so, reminded the galaxy what it means to be alive." The log ended. The engines flared. And far behind them, on that small, defiant world called Earth, 1,000 lights blinked from orbit, a reminder that humanity was watching still.